Hello, everyone. Welcome to Just Gaming Tingz, episode 65, where we bring you the all career perspective on gaming things, which is why it's called Gaming Things. What you would have thought about that, huh? My name is Koga Jangles, and I am here with Dexter Licious,
Hi, hello.
and I'm also here with Pants.
Hello, I'm alive.
Alrighty, so you would notice by the title is it too hard? Well, don't worry, we're not talking about anything that's not great for teenagers, children, who knows, but more so talking about an upcoming game called oh, I almost said Elfen Lied. That ain't it. Jesus Christ, Elden Ring.
Ah!
What's that?
Oh my god.
At first, it was pretty good. But we're more so talking about Elfen Lied. All right, so I know Pans, you had brought this up in the Discord, so you can take this part from here if you would so desire.
Yes, I would love to. Okay, so Elfen Lied. No, I'm kidding. Elden Ring comes out next month, which is I forgot that it actually comes out next month. I still thought we had some time. I don't know why. But basically, Elden Ring is by From Software, which has done a lot of the Dark Souls games. So everybody's like anything that's Soulsborne, you always understand that they're tough games, and a lot of talk has been around about accessibility in From Software games, which thankfully the director, let me make sure I'm saying this right, Hidetaka Miyazaki, has definitely like taken to heart too. He has stated that they're not really going to be adding accessibility features, which is still kind of but he did say that he is listening to the criticism about, how difficult the games could be and making sure that it could be accessible to everybody. So in this article, they did state that they have made some changes to at least the multiplayer, which is really nice. Because the multiplayer, I think, is like, it seems a lot better than like other Soulsborne games, because normally it's like somebody could come in, join, and sometimes it's like random people. It's a little tough sometimes to get people into like joining you, because I tried it on like Dark Souls 2 back in the day, and that was a journey to try to get my friend to join me. But they did say they're going to make it a lot more easier for people to like join up for co-oping too, which I think I can't remember too well, but I feel like the multiplayer wasn't like fully co-op. Like you could like easily just lose connection and stuff and basically have to go through this whole ordeal again to try to connect with your friend. I'm really glad at least like it seems like they're making this change so that like I think it's going to be a lot more of a bigger game in like multiplayer is how I'm seeing at least Elden Ring, because a lot of people want to, not everybody wants to play, but like there's a lot of people who want to play it, but then there's still like people who are like, maybe I just want to play with my friends because then maybe it'll make it like more fun or easier to have like somebody who maybe is like into the game and somebody who isn't, so you can like actually fully co-op it. So at least they're making that change. They said it's going to be so much easier to actually like fully get into to any other game for co-op. So I just wanted to bring up this conversation because really the topic of just like they're not really making accessibility features for the full game to be easier and accessible to all. I just wanted to bring up the topic of just like accessibility in games, the topic of, is a game too hard? Like, should we make games, somewhat like easier? Should there be like the difficulty slider if there is? Like, how do we basically get around that so that anyone could really enjoy a game? I don't know who wants to start.
Oh, we're gonna play paper rock scissors for this?
I know, right?
I mean,
Let's go.
I can go.
Yes.
Okay, so the thing about the accessibility, it was that reading this article, I was like, okay, so y'all acknowledge that accessibility is good and you want to do accessibility, but then don't put any accessibility features into your game is it's not really adding up. And it's like, I know it's like it can be a little more difficult to add accessibility features, but like y'all had a while. Like I feel like this game is being developed for the longest time, but like it's never been something I was looking forward to or knew much about, and it just felt like it was announced recently, but like still it's like I feel like if they're able to add all these implementations for like multiplayer and stuff that they could have added accessibility features otherwise. And overall, I don't think like the accessibility or adding the options would affect difficulty too much because like the main thing is that like gamer sitting in your gamer chair, adding multiple accessibility options or difficulty options will not make your game easier because guess what, Mimi? There are harder difficulties. So I'm hoping maybe they can add accessibility options because it seems like they wanted to, but again, this game has nothing, so I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, so I can't say that anything surprises me about any of it because he's been making these games like this for like how many years now. I know when Sekiro came out, Miyazaki did speak on how they want to make their games, and that pretty much applies here. So I don't see it being like easier, like the fights are going to be easier. Like no, you're still going to get maybe not like halfway across the field, maybe, but I guess it's going to be easier to get to the multiplayer aspects, which honestly made the game a bit easier. I mean, I haven't tried it because I'm on PC and I tried it for like Dark Souls, the first one, Prepare to Die edition,
Oh no.
and we know how that went. To give you a long story short, someone came into my game, hacked, and pretty much cursed my character at the beginning of the game. You can't do anything about that. So I had to start over. I'm like, all right, I'm playing offline now. But if you're like on console, that shouldn't be an issue. Shouldn't, but it'll be a lot easier in that regard. But like I said, I don't expect him to really change this because like I said, he has a way he wants to do it. He doesn't want it to be hard for the sake of it, but more so to like you have to pay attention to these things. You have to persevere. That's what he wants out of his game. The thing is, not everybody wants to do that. He's aware of this, and he's doing what he wants to do with his game anyway, which I can see both sides of it because I am all for someone making the game that they want to make, and I actually think it's great that he's in a position to where he can and not have to worry about it impacting sales. Because I would prefer that for anyone who wants to make anything is to be able to make what they want to make without too much compromise. But I get people who may not want to persevere more so, and maybe just have it toned down a little bit. But I mean, at this point, it's Soul games. I think the conversation is still great it's still great, but it's kind of like after a certain point, he's probably not doing it the way that you want. Y'all know this, so don't be one of these people who buy it day one and then say the game is too hard, because you know how they make these at this point. But I do think that also when we talk about accessibility in video games, we also need to talk about like things for people who are disabled, like a way for them to actually be able to play the game normally and not always about, all right, can we put like an easy mode? Like very easy, because that's not all accessibility is. And it's kind of annoying, to put it lightly, that every time I see someone say accessibility, it's usually about that. Like they want easier, or they want to be able to skip the boss fight in general, which, I mean, if you want that, that's fine, but that's not something that they have to do. But it's like, how do we make it to where some people who just aren't physically able to, a way for them to be able to, and to be just as well equipped to handle that challenge? I think that's a conversation that needs to be had as well, but it rarely is. And I think that's a little bit sad, since way too many people aggressively complain about accessibility, but it's never really about actual accessibility. It's just not always, but usually they just want something a bit simpler for their day. And again, when it comes to Souls, that's not what these games are. But as for other games that do this, I think it's good. I know like Forza tried to do this a little bit more. Some other games do as well, and I think it's good. Just as it's not something I see like every game having, of course, and I'm not sure like how much time this takes for them to develop. I mean, it's probably better for them to start with it in mind, but a good chunk of them don't. Which is why I do think it still is important for the conversation to have. Not in a way to the point to where y'all start sounding so aggressive to where they just downright ignore you. 'Cause I've seen some people do that who can be just as annoying as like the people who are just saying get good. Like it's definitely okay to request these things for sure, but make sure you're doing it in a way that doesn't make them say, "Yeah, we're gonna just not read that email" or something like that. So I think it's something that more do need to talk about and maybe add. I don't know. I mean, I keep that more in mind for their games, but I'm also not a person who's going to say, if you're making a new game, you have to do this. I'm not going to say that, but it's like, at least take it into consideration perhaps. And if it's not something you want to do or you want to focus on something else, I can't tell them what to do. Like I said, I'm all for people making the product that they want to make. But if your game fails because of this, that's also your own fault too. So keep that in mind. And it's not every company and developer is going to be, Miyazaki, who can honestly just do what the hell he wants. I mean, if you've heard like how dark, like how Demon Souls became a thing, that was literally a case of, I'm finna do whatever the fuck I want, and we'll worry about what Sony has to say later. And not everyone gets to do that. So, you got to keep in mind of your situation, everything like that. But for those who do want this, I do, make sure, keep the conversation as civil as possible. Also keep in mind of, people with disabilities as well. And if there are games that are doing what you ask, also talk about those games too. Because there are a lot of times that we complain about what certain games aren't doing and how this isn't a thing and things like that. But there's plenty of games that are doing that are at least attempting in some type of way. So, be sure to, to lift those games up to, let them know that, we see you, we like this.
Yeah,
as well.
Exactly. And what you brought up is a really good point, because there are a bunch of games that are slowly trying to be accessible in the way of like, a colorblind mode and like lighting and, trying to at least get some different disabilities too, like trying to get people who can play who have disabilities to enjoy their game. Like, it doesn't have to just be like a point and click or like a narrative story to be, easy or accessible to people, accessible quotations on that. I feel like it really starts on like just getting your settings to like even try to get like, okay, so you're getting your settings to be something where like it could be accessible to other people who wouldn't really be able to enjoy it without these certain settings. Like you're right in the fact where it doesn't have to be, oh, is this game hard? Well, now it's not accessible. Like that doesn't really mean it. Because I feel, like, yeah, you kind of know what you're getting into for Elden Ring. I feel like it doesn't have to have it. It just needs. I feel like even if we talk about it, I feel like I remember like there has been like at least some settings at least in maybe Demon Souls. I feel like they have started like settings that at least help with some accessibility. So it's not just like you're going in and being like, I can't see anything. Because you know how those games can be extremely bad probably to like play in if you have like any like maybe like visual like anything visually that you just can't deal with, because I feel like it's just really dark. And like some of the effects and everything. So like having just those, which like a lot of games really have been really good about lately. Some still not so great. It's bad when we can't really turn off like depth of field and stuff too.
I hate that field.
Like I honestly do not understand how companies just like bake it in. You're just like, this does not help.
I don't like that. Like I wear glasses. Things look blurry when I look like up here. Like I don't want to see more blurriness in my game. That makes me upset. I mean, not
Literally.
seriously, but it's like it's the thing is like it sometimes can use more processing power, and I'm like, yo, can I just turn that off?
I can even talk about an example. It was like last year, but I'm gonna bring it up because I feel like that was like the one of the last games that I played that like had me at points where I was like, oh, I do feel kind of sick playing this, which was Resident Evil. Resident Evil 8. Yeah, woo! Which I know everybody had like issues with because basically just like first person isn't always bad for me, but it's just the way that they had it. Like it was very, very blurry. The emotion in it was like, I don't think you had any setting for like the motion to like smooth it or anything. You couldn't really talk. I don't think there was anything to turn off like zinc or, you know, depth of field or anything. So you're just kind of dying at some points of just like walking around and you're like, it almost makes you nauseous. Like I know a lot of people got nauseous no matter which version of the game you were playing. I know people were saying, yeah, use PC. You can get like mods, at least people were like modding to help get that, but that's like, it shouldn't come down to like mods have to help your game be accessible to people so that they're not like literally at the just like extreme nausea trying to play. I've seen a lot of streamers who like had to turn off their streams because they're like, this is bad, or people in the comments being like they can't really watch or enjoy because of like just the way the game was built, and like the streamer can't really like fix it or anything to help even like their viewers or YouTubers or anything. So it's just kind of like it really starts at like almost like the bare minimum. It's just like how do you make sure that your game can even be played by anybody? It's like the real thing about accessibility. It's like if you already have like an issue here at the base, at a basic level where like your game is basically almost unplayable because people are going to get sick from just walking around, like how do you even think that people are going to just be able to play who have like disabilities that like impair them from playing the game even further? So it's just like that's the main issue here. And yeah, sorry, go.
So I know Resident Evil Village had a demo, and I haven't played it yet because I'm waiting for the VR mod. But like, was this an issue like when the demo was out that people like had mentioned to them? Because like I can maybe understand how they might have missed it, perhaps if it was something that no one had mentioned. So I don't know because I personally haven't. But to be fair, I've kind of like avoided watching gameplay just to not be spoiled. But I can see like if they somehow actually didn't know, or there's not anyone who's working on the game that has these issues, I can see how that can be something that was missed. But like I said, I do know they did a demo, which is one of their ridiculous timed demos, and I was wondering like maybe during that time did anyone, was this a topic of discussion at that time? Because I personally didn't see it.
Right, I didn't. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, if it was, I feel like it wouldn't really have done much because it was literally like a month before the game came out.
True. So it was like it was basically just getting packed and shipped everywhere at that point anyway.
Literally, like they were like, oh yeah, the game's going out places, and here's the demo. And we're just like, okay.
Yeah, because I did my research, because at first I think I was just like, woke up, was watching one of the Rainbow Arcade streamers, like I think I just like bouncing around to see like where everybody was at first, and then I decided to buy it because I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like I think I would just enjoy it like playing with my friends, so we did like a watch party kind of with me playing. But like I know I did my research because I heard so many complaints then, and I think even back then there was some complaints, but I feel like it wasn't as like at a level as when it came out, because I feel when it came out there was like articles about it and like people really reaching out to try to be like, can you fix the game, like can we have an update so that we would be able to like turn these things off and like be able to play. And that's how I knew like PC was slightly, some people were saying was kind of better than getting it on console or anything. Some people said there was an option. I didn't see it. I think it was just people saying that you could just mod it. But I think I do remember some people were saying like the demo was still kind of had those effects too. But I don't think it was like big news where people like really causing uproar. Because I feel like most people were probably also trying not to get spoiled or anything. Like we're just like, oh, that's cool, but it's like time. So maybe like the time that it is out, I can't play. And then second, I don't want to know anything before going
Right.
in. Yeah. Oh yeah, and as Ruby said, it wasn't super action packed. It was just kind of you walking around, which I think added to that too, because I feel like at least walking around, it's probably not as bad as you're seeing it. But once like all the effects are coming in, you're shooting, you're running, like you see all the zombies and everything just like running around. You're just like there's a lot of sensory overload there, and then that can cause issues just in general, depending on the console, whatever you're playing on too, because that could always just become lag. But then it's just like once there's everything there, it can be a lot more noticeable. But yeah, I definitely, going back to somewhat on Elden Ring too, I just definitely feel, what else did they say? Didn't they say like, oh, we at least have like not just basically sword swinging classes in it. They're like, we have other classes, which is not so like action, or not action packed, but like fully like close combat, which is nice, but like that still doesn't mean anything, because then if like maybe there's not settings on like the effects or anything when you're casting magic, is that gonna actually make it accessible is a thing.
Yeah, I don't think that part would have been something they would have like thought about. Like, yeah, like I said, usually when it came to like the conversation I was reading here, it mostly just came down to difficulty and making it a little bit certain things easier. Like I know he mentioned like there's certain like encounters that you don't have to do right away. You can do them later on or something along those lines. But I don't expect like it to go into like. I mean, it's hard to say because like I don't know, like I said, when it comes to things like outside of just difficulty, I don't not sure what else they would need to specifically add that's not there because I haven't played like the later ones. Like I haven't played like the new Demon Souls that was on PS5 because I don't have a PS5. I haven't played Sekiro, so I haven't played some of the new ones to know like what's already there. But
Yeah.
so I don't know like what complaints or people may have on those. Like I said, unfortunately, majority of the time I've seen people complain about accessibility. It just usually comes down to difficulty. But if there's other things that people are that can prevent them from playing it, that would be nice. Like I guess for people who are colorblind, I'm colorblind, but I personally haven't had that issue from the ones that I've played so far. Now Puzzle Fighter, on the other hand, I can't tell green from yellow. So, I mean, like I said, it's just one of those things that it's a conversation that needs to, keep happening and more to be brought, to the table on things that can change. But it's gonna be a while because it's also gonna be things that they may not even have thought of or just not, even be aware of that issues that people will have until, you know, someone brings it up. And then unfortunately, from the business perspective, depending on when they're aware of it, it comes into okay, so we have this certain amount of time and budget to go on this. How much are we going to put into this until a small minority? And a lot of the time, they're going to be like, no. They may add it later, maybe. It depends.
2
Like, it
years
really
later.
or the next game.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't add to this one, but we started working on like the game like about a year after into this one, and we heard your feedback. So we're gonna add it into here, which I mean is better than nothing. It's just that unfortunately we're still in that phase of it's not like in parts like just like accessibility, actual accessibility settings is not much of a thing as on certain aspects.
Mhm.
But like I said, there's a lot of things that people can have that will make it unplayable that they just may not be aware of because I definitely can't sit here and think of everything.
Mhm.
So it's just, have your ears open and, see what you can do to accommodate. Like I said, it's definitely just a conversation that needs to be more talked about and, like I said, honestly, really past difficulty. I say that a lot, but it's just that that's most of the time I see it, and I really feel like we're doing a disservice to people who are just actually completely unable to, who want to, compared to I don't feel like paying attention to this pattern. but I don't know what else. I'll probably get this game at some point, but I'm not
Mm.
sure like what they would add, what they could add that would maybe take off some option for effects that might be able to do that. But I'm not sure how good they are with their like options on PC. I know some games they have like a setting for like almost everything that you can turn things off, and some is kind of like bare minimum. So that
Right.
could also play a role into how that'll work, as well as how much do they let you change in the settings without having to go into like the INI config files or something.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've touched, because I played Demon Souls a bit, and I only got 2 bosses. But mainly because I was like, I had to take a break after each one because I would have like such high adrenaline that I was like, I need to calm down before I even attempt to go more. But I can't remember, but I feel like at least like the settings were pretty good, or not good, but at least decent, if I can remember right. But I also can't remember exactly what everything was. I remember at least looking and being like, oh, at least like there's some decent like ways that I can get around this, where I'm not like not like dying while trying to play the game. Obviously, I will be dying in the game, but I personally I don't want to be dying.
Gonna die a lot.
it's
It's,
kind
it's,
of it's kind of rewarding though once you do finish like a boss off and you're like, I did it.
It honestly really is. That's one of the things that I do like, is that it can get frustrating, but when you do, it's like you really feel like you did that and you're
Mhm.
ready for the next big challenge. And all right, here we go again.
I was very
Depends on what you
happy.
go with.
Yeah, I'll talk briefly about my experience before we change topics, or if you want to talk about this more. But I know like the very first boss, or I guess it was like a mini boss. I don't know, because nothing is really labeled, and I think that's my main complaint. Is like I don't know where I'm going half the time. There's like there's not really a linear path in a way. Like kind of yes, but then you can like branch out and then find your way basically back to wherever you need to go. But then there's times where you can run into things that are like maybe more harder, and you're like, oh, now I just died and I can't really go back there because then I'll probably just die again. But I finished the first one not knowing anything on my first try, and I was like, I did it! And then I got to the second boss and I immediately died a few times, and then like I didn't know what to do, and then people were like, at least like that's when I'm okay with like somebody telling me like, hey, this is gonna help you, because I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna even get past like a second in this area because I just go in and immediately die. And they're like, there's an item over there, and I was like, well, I would have never known because I was too afraid to go over there. I thought that was a hard area that I was gonna start something else in. But yeah, that was my experience. I only went very far because then I was like, oh. And then I also have accidentally, because you can go in the main area in Demon Souls, and there's like, I guess like the different pillars to show like different areas. And for some reason, I didn't realize that when I went back in there and was trying to go back into, I guess, the first area, I accidentally went to the second area.
Oh,
And I just was getting my ass handed to me and not knowing that I was in the wrong area this whole time. Because I was like, wow, I haven't seen this at all. Like, where am I? I did pretty decent. I did not die immediately, but I was like, oh, I'm clearly in a over-leveled area that I shouldn't be in, because there's still a lot more in the first area that I should be in. Which I
Yeah,
guess is like, that's my main complaint. I guess is like, also like, you can't really go off the player thing because people can write messages, but people are like trolling half the time. So I can never know if anybody's being like actually serious or not. Some people are helpful, some people aren't. So I don't trust any of them. So I get there and I'm like, I should be in the right area, but there's nothing to indicate that I wasn't.
Yeah, I believe in like the later games, they made them a little bit more linear. I know 3 was definitely more linear than like Dark Souls 1, I remember the first time I played that, you get to like the first main hub or after you leave the prison, and there's like 3 directions you can go. And I'm like, okay. So I go, down to where like the tombstones and stuff at and all these the skeleton, and this big ass skeleton comes out, and I'm like, am I not supposed to be here? I go down the well. Am I not supposed to be here? The game just didn't tell you, like, are you dying? You might not need to be there. But what if I die going up to the other part? Which is where you were supposed to go, and it's a bit easier. But again, it doesn't tell you. So I know, like, with 3, they kind of just like, okay, it's a little bit more linear to help with that. But I know with, like, I guess Elden Ring, they make it to where you don't have to go like in a specific direction. So I'm not sure how that's gonna help with everything. But like I said, unfortunately, the games are just kind of like you kind of have to explore, pay attention, and it just requires that of you. And it's I mean, I wouldn't say it's unfortunate. It's just that that's the type of game that this is, and I don't have an issue with that because you can tell that's what he really wants. He wants people to go through that, and then he wants to hear, their stories about, how they overcame that. And that's one thing in the Dark Souls community that they really love to do. And I've personally, with the times I did play it, had a pretty pleasant experience with that. But they're not usually really, from my experience, a bunch of dicks, unless some of them are. Not like if you're like actually like having an issue and you're like, oh my god, you're trying to figure it out, like they'll help you. But yeah, if you go on Twitter and you like start complaining about difficulty, you just open the gates and here they come.
Yeah, that is a good thing that you brought up. I feel like a lot of the community, not everybody in the community, a lot of it is pretty good about helping out everybody. So if you actually are confused, they're gonna be like, okay, I got you. But they also pretty good about not like fully backseating. I feel like people who do backseat are like, somebody who probably thought they knew the game. But like normally like people who are probably hardcore into like the Souls games are more so like, oh, if you actually need help, I'll help you. But they're not gonna just be like, yeah, let me just help you immediately.
Yeah, because they're laughing at your pain.
They're laughing at your pain. They're like, I was there too, so now I get to watch you struggle.
Yeah, it's like that. Okay.
But yeah, does anyone have any other thoughts about either Elden Ring in general or accessibility? I can't tell, Dex. You're like, I got something.
I'm not a Souls bitch. That's all I know.
Do you have any other thoughts on accessibility in games?
Give it to us.
No, I don't have really nothing else to say. Just like I said, just try to keep it like civil, and if a game isn't doing what you ask, play the ones that are.
I do like how you did bring examples also of like maybe other past games or other games that have, accessibility options, ways that they've kind of, made it accessible for everybody, and like bring that into, instead of just being like, oh, like nobody has this, or,
Yeah.
like, why don't you have this thing? It's like, oh, like, see, like, X game did this to help out with, like, bring examples is basically what I'm trying to say.
All right, so I guess the next one was about Microsoft will soon be automatically canceling dormant Game Pass subscription, which that's kind of different because most of them would be like, so we're gonna keep taking this money out of your account.
They said we got your money, bitch.
We got it forever until you actually turn us off. But then that's gonna be very hard to like cancel your subscription. Woo!
Yeah, so I'm not seeing that it says exactly when this is they're gonna start doing this, but I guess at some point in the future they are gonna want to do that. So like if you're inactive, because they said, see, like for example, it says Microsoft will also contact existing customers who haven't used their memberships for a long time but are still paying. These customers will be reminded how to stop payments, and if they continue not to use their membership, Microsoft will ultimately stop taking further payments. That's something like that I think is actually pretty interesting. I'm surprised because I just don't think most don't do this. They'll like let you know, but not say, okay, you're just not there, you're not using it, you're gone. We're just gonna eliminate the account. not eliminate the account, but turn off the subscription. I mean, I think that's great. There's not many. I don't have that issue, but I know some people are kind of really bad at turning off their subscriptions. Like, their Netflix, you watched it for one show and it's like, all right, I'm done. And then they keep it on. Same with Hulu and any other subscription service. But yeah, so I think that's good, but I'm usually good. Mine has been on for years, so I'm good anyway.
Dex, do you have any thoughts?
I think I usually since I don't have to worry about too much now, I usually am able to catch my subscriptions and keep track of it, but I feel like it's definitely helpful for people that have a lot going on or just might be misthinking or it might be the wrong day that they're thinking it's supposed to charge them or whatever. So I really do like this because as a person that's I've usually been on top of my subscriptions, but the year before last, I meant to turn off my Nintendo one, and they messaged me a month before, and I was like, I'll remember. I didn't. So they charged me a month later for the year membership. So I was just like, well, yeah, maybe this would be nice. So I just think back to that one time they charged me again from Nintendo Online, and I'm just like, yeah, I feel like this is very good because you don't really see this in subscriptions. So I think it's very nice that they would try to implement something like this in the future.
I know, I'm terrible with my subscriptions too. I'm always I'm glad a lot of companies normally will email me, but sometimes it goes to my junk email that I check once a week. And I'll be like, oh, this is gonna get canceled, and I see my bank report that just says, by the way, we took out this X amount of money from you for this, and I'm like, oh no. And then I emailed them and I'm like, which I'm I didn't mean to. I meant to cancel Mia PlayStation recently.
PlayStation, y'all hear something?
I know. I had my PSN go through for the yearly, and I was like, ooh. They were just like, you can cancel, but that's about it. And I was like, cool, so I guess I have it for another year.
So they wouldn't let you prorate and get some of that money back?
Nope.
No, I don't. Nope. No. They're
Not
just
at
kind of like, you can cancel, and that's about it.
Well, that's a darn shame because Microsoft, on the other hand, has another part here. Says Microsoft will contact existing customers on recurring 12-month contracts and give them the option to end their contract and claim a rata? What?
Prorated?
I've never heard this word before in my life.
Pro rata.
I have a professional ratata. Let's go. A pro rata whatever refund.
Oh, interesting.
But what does that mean?
I do
I'm-
like that they are just kind of canceling if you're not using it, because there's so many times where I feel like I'm barely getting the use out of my subscriptions on anything. And I wish that a company would just be like, we haven't seen you a month. What is going 2 months? What's going on here? And I'll be like, oh yeah, I totally forgot. Or I haven't really taken part of that subscription. Hulu. Gonna just call out my subscriptions. Hulu,
Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah, so I guess it's just depending on how many months you have left, they'll probably give you that's how much they'll refund you. So if you have 11 months, maybe 11 months worth, maybe.
Mhm. Right. I do love
But,
that they'll offer the refunds. They're actually asking hey, did you keep this subscription? If not, then we'll refund you basically the rest of the amount, which is much better than just a company being like, well, too bad. There's so many companies. I try to get into subscription-based things. It's terrible for me. Because especially even if I'm I only use this thing every 3 months. I'm going to talk about my oats subscription. So if I wanted my oats, I want these oats delicious. I barely go through them a week. I go through one maybe every few months. So I have a cabinet of just like 10 of them sitting there because they send me so much. So I give them out to like family and friends, and I'm like, take these, please. Because I don't go through them. And I set the subscription for 3 months because I thought I had enough time. And then 3 months happens, and then they're like, we're charging you here's your next box of like 8. And I'm like, no. And it's difficult to cancel because then they're like, are you sure? Do you just want like extra months off? Like, we can make sure it's like 6 months, maybe a year, and then you come, and then it'll just reoccur again. And you're like, I just really want to cancel. I hate when they give the option of just being like, maybe you just want to like push it back another few months. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
like, want to push it 1, want to push it 2, want to push it 3, and you're like, I'll push it 3, I'll push it 3. It's
Right.
like you miss the 3, and you just get charged, and you're just like, it's over.
It's over forever. My bank is crying as it takes out the $50 for my dog bark box or whatever. I've had that too, and I feel bad.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna just talk about my subscriptions that I feel bad about. I'm like, ooh, let me get my dog this cute little box of like toys and stuff. And then, and then I'll be like, I will wait 6 months, and then the 6 months happens, and they're like, here's your box, and I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
This is an intervention for me. I'm no more subscriptions.
Impromptu intervention.
Yes. But back to Microsoft. Glad that they're doing this to help everybody because we're really bad. I feel like a lot of us are really bad about it. And it feels like less pressure. I feel like a lot of the times it's like pressure that you feel that like companies are like, ooh, are you sure that you really want to cancel? Are you sure that you don't want this still? And you're like, maybe I can do it a little longer.
Are you sure you want to be a flop? Like, that's how
Yes.
they are.
Trying to flop out of the subscription. Thank you.
Yeah.
Literally.
I do not want to give you more money is the thing.
Right.
But yeah, I'm glad I might look at Game Pass too eventually, but I do not want to get into another subscription after bypass.
For sure.
It is worth the subscription.
That
There's
is true.
so many games you can play so many ways.
I know. I do have listen, I do have the app on my PC. I do have the Game Pass, and it pops up every time I turn my computer on. And then it's like, do you want to sign up? And I close out the window again. And I've had it for like 6 months. And I go, nope, and I close the window.
You deny Game Pass?
I feel like
And I
if
stare
you're
at
Game
the
Pass,
library.
I just feel like it's like so big of a library. I'm like, oh yes, so many games, and then I'd be the bitch that plays like one the entire time instead of playing anything else.
Literally just playing the same one game until it gets
Right.
knocked out, and then we're like, well, time to cancel.
Right, just end it. Like, I don't know what's there, but you know, there's
Mhm.
something there, and then sometimes she's gonna be gone, and I'm just gonna be like, oh, all right,
Yes.
work.
I feel like we're gonna talk about Game Pass now.
Might as
Because
well.
might as well. I feel like I know we've talked about it many times on the podcast, many episodes, and everybody has very good, talk about Game Pass, which is true. I do love the idea because I'm sick of having to pay online for like PlayStation or Nintendo. I know you can pay online for Xbox, but now with Game Pass, it's kind of just like, I
The
guess it's
same
all,
thing,
yeah, it's like all
basically.
in one, and then you actually get a bigger library than like PSN, where you just get like a few like maybe 2 good games. No, not even 2 good games. 2
Yeah,
games.
they're like, here's flop games that
Here's
like
flop
nobody
games.
wanted. But in December or like Tuesday, there's like suddenly a game that's like all right. And then after that,
Right.
they're just like,
You get like
here's
one
Worms.
blockbuster a year, and then you're like, ooh!
Right. Like the one time they were like, oh, Final Fantasy VII Remake is free. And then
Yeah.
they were just like, Worms or whatever.
Right.
That is so true. It's like, speaking of gaming, it's like I rather have Game Pass, and then what else? It's like one subscription is just like for PC and Xbox, right? And then one other subscription, like a little bit higher tier, is like you can play on your phone or something.
Yeah, so there's one for PC, there's one for Xbox,
Oh.
and then there's the Ultimate that gives you PC, Xbox, and the phone part is free. I mean, I guess you can kind of say that because the Game Pass Ultimate did already exist, and then the app to play on the cloud just added it, and they didn't raise the price. So I mean, I guess it's not free, but if I don't pay the $15, I don't get it. So it's not 100% free. Kitty, what are you doing?
Yeah, I've definitely dabbled in thinking about which subscription, but a lot of the times I always say I want couch play because I don't want to sit at my desk, and then I get something for the console and I go, I will never play it.
Right. We've heard this before.
We've heard this many a times. Oh yes, I will play on the couch, and then I never play on the couch.
Mhm.
You know, the journey. Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
But yeah, Game Pass. Get it if you want it. It sounds like the better subscription out of all the gaming subscriptions that you could get. I do not have it, so I can't highly recommend, but I guess I could be like, highly recommends. I don't have it, but it sounds great.
Right. Same.
But yeah. No, if we have anything else to add to this topic.
Just, I feel like after every podcast, I'm like, after every podcast, I'm like, maybe I should get an Xbox. Maybe Xbox is the way to go, and I get scared.
I will agree that there's many times that I've either I'm watching it or I'm on the panel here and I go, maybe I should buy an Xbox, and I look at it and then I say I should save my money.
Yeah.
Well, if you get an Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, you'll be saving money because you won't have to buy all these games that's on the subscription. In fact, you can get an Xbox Series S pretty easily right now because
Everybody's getting the PlayStation.
But if you go to PlayStation, you got to pay full price every game every time.
I guess this is now an intervention of us just asking Koga about, or not intervention, but this is just a Q&A of Dex and I just being like, Koga, tell us about the Xbox.
Right.
Sell us
Literally.
the Xbox.
We're just like, we're PlayStation girls. We don't know anything.
We don't know anything. I've had an Xbox 360 back in the day, and that was a choice.
I thrived. I'm sorry you didn't, but I thrived.
Oh, I thrived. My first game was Viva Pinata. But I will only say, like, I thrived in it. The online situation, I cannot wrap my head around for some reason back then. Because this is, like, basically near the beginning of Xbox 360. And I was very confused because I came off of PlayStation. I don't have to pay online yet. And then I was very, very confused. And I remember buying one of the things and thinking this would work, and it didn't because I was trying to play Phantasy Star Online or whatever. That's the only reason 11? I needed it. Yeah, I forget which one it was.
I think 11 was on the 360.
Yeah, where you can like create your own character too, and it was very cute. You could play the demo technically to like really get it almost for free, and then you had to pay after that, and I was very confused on how to set that up because it didn't want to work, and that was my only gripe with Xbox, and that's made me say no more Xbox was their online that time.
My gripe was that I literally don't know to this day if my parents like misplaced the hard drive for our Xbox 360. So we never had a storage device for our Xbox 360 the entire time we had it. Because I remember I looked through the box and like the thing with the 500 gigabyte thing was empty. So like I had to play games on like a flash drive if I didn't own the disc, and it was just like a 16 gigabyte flash drive. So like the thing with Xbox 360 back then was that when you had live and you could get the free games, you have to download the free games. You can't just put them in a library. So like I missed so many free games that I wanted because I couldn't download it.
Oh no.
I was devastated. So I think that's what got me out.
And then we were back to PlayStation and being like, ooh, we're not getting the best of our buck over here, but it's great.
I don't know. I had a
Right.
PlayStation 3 at launch, and that was rough. That was dark times. Like you remember, I don't know if you had it back then. If you were downloading a game, you could not go do anything else. It had to stay on that screen and download the entire time. So imagine me getting home, watching my back because I got it when it launched, and I got like the last 60 gigabyte model. So you had to be careful. And I get home, and I'm like, all right, I'm finna download this was it a Motorstorm or some demo, and it's like 720 something megabytes. Internet was slower at the time, and you just gotta sit there
Yeah.
or just download it overnight.
And it made me do that for every download that I have. As I still do that on my PlayStation. Like
Wait,
if I go on my if I go on my 5, like it downloads in the background and so does the 4. But like I still am just so used to just being like, let me just keep the screen up to see where it's downloading. Like where's the download at? Because I feel bad if like I close out or anything that I'm gonna be like, it's gonna just somehow break.
Go slower.
It goes slower and I'm just like, no.
I mean, sometimes it can, especially on my PS4. I feel like if I'm running, I usually only have 14 running, so it obviously slows down because that's online. But like, I hate how PS4 be like, oh yeah, the download's like 2 minutes, and then it copies for an hour.
Oh yeah.
Copying is the word.
The copying, because you're like, oh, I finally downloaded it, and then it's like, just kidding.
Yeah, it's like Fortnite downloaded, y'all ready to play, and then like copying for like 2 hours, and you're just like, oh.
That's the bad thing. So I do need my other thing about PlayStation now is that since my subscription ends in like a year, basically, I need to speedrun God of War finally.
Do it.
Because it's free on PSN if you have the PlayStation 5, I should state. They have like a bunch of like the blockbuster games that you can just play for free if you have PSN. And that's the main reason I had it, and I haven't played God of War in a year.
Oh yeah, because there's like that set of like 20 games or something that you could play if you have that. I forgot about that. Because
Yeah.
Infamous Second Son was on there.
Yeah, you can play not Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Persona 5. Only the first Persona 5, not the new one, so you do not get the good.
They said flop era.
Yeah, they're like, everybody's buying the new one. Here, we're gonna give you the old one for free. God of War, a couple other things.
They put Spider-Man on there?
I think the first Spider-Man is, maybe, but I don't remember. I had to double check. I feel like it wasn't, maybe, because it's like,
I don't think it was.
it's like one of the biggest games too. They're like, you're gonna have to pay for that one. But they put the new zombie game that came out like right before the PlayStation 5.
New zombie game.
New zombie game.
Which one?
I know, there's so many. The one where you're like on a motorcycle or whatever.
Oh, Days Gone?
Yes. I know that one was free, and I was like, did this just come out? So it must have been
Oh,
a
yeah,
flop.
because the developer was complaining about that, I think.
Because it didn't do good and everybody was waiting for a sale?
Well, yeah, because I feel like it had people who are really excited for it, but then they put it on the 20 games that you can get for free. Like, literally, it was like a month or two after it came out, because like the PlayStation 5 came out like literally right after it, I think.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
just kind of funny to be like, this game just came out and people are paying full price, and then you could just get it for free if you just buy your $500 console. I'm just throwing myself under the bus. I'm like just talking crap about my own self and my own purchases.
I'm just like, maybe someday, you know.
I know. It is nice. Oh, you could get the Mortal Kombat. I don't know which one. The 11 Definitive Edition or whatever.
XL.
XL. I don't know anymore. There's too many. But one
Yeah,
of the
that was the one
recents.
before 11.
Yeah, that was 10, but like with the
Oh.
They called it
extras.
X for some reason. I don't know. They were very weird about numbers. Like the reboot was Mortal Kombat 9 was the reboot, but the community just called it Mortal Kombat 9 because this is when everybody was upset when you would make a new game and then just give it like Mortal Kombat. I'm like, so which one are we talking about? Mortal Kombat 1992 or 2011? We're just gonna call this one 9.
Right.
And then X, I don't get why. And then 11, I'm like, so we're going back to normal. Thank you. But I know like 11 is on Game Pass now.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
I pull up Game Pass. I subscribe at the end
Oh.
of the podcast.
I'm yelling.
Dex and I, by the end of the year, maybe get an Xbox.
Maybe get an Xbox.
That's a
maybe
big
get the Game Pass.
Maybe get the Game Pass, and then we're gonna be like, "Oh my god, we're finally here!" And everybody's gonna move on to something else at that
Right,
point.
our betrayal era.
Very excited. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that anyone else wanted to bring up this week, before we get into what we are up to, what we're playing.
nope, nothing else.
Awesome. Let's start with Dex. Well, is there,
Okay.
what are you up to? What have you been playing?
You know, usually the usual 14 all day, every day. Just doing the little daily grinds, and then Fortnite when I can, when I feel like it. And that's it. What about you, Koga?
I've played a little bit more Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. It's still fun, but yeah, some people take forever on their turn, which some of y'all take a little bit too long just to get cooked by me on the next turn. Just saying.
Maybe they're just prolonging it.
They need to put like a timer. Like there's a time. I think there's like a timer for the overall match, but they need to put a timer on turns. Like there's some of these don't need to go that long, and like the game system itself doesn't help with that, which isn't bad for the game. I mean, it's supposed to like ask, are you going to activate this or this and all that? But it's like sometimes it just takes a while where I'm like, I kind of don't want to go and play online because this might take 15, 20 minutes.
That's so odd to me.
I mean,
that
if you
it's
get like
not
a
timed.
yeah, like if you get like a bad hand, like once I got a bad hand and I'm just sitting around like waiting, and I guess the other person had a bad hand, and I'm like, 30 at least 30 seconds to maybe a minute per turn.
Oh no.
And it's just, I mean, it's like I said, it's just how the game is. And I know a lot of people have been upset about getting like killed really fast, but I'm like, I don't know, man. Yu-Gi-Oh used to be like that when I was in high school. Like kind of was. So it's always been like that. It's just when you're playing against people who know what they're doing and playing a bit competitive, it gets a little bit rough if you don't keep up. And I already seen people waste their resources. And I'm like, I said last week, like, don't do that because the game is gonna get selfish. It's gonna get to a point where that's not gonna give you nothing. And people just been opening up random packs. I'm like, do you even know what you want to build yet? No. Oof. The crafting system is really good though. Like you can get some pretty good stuff out of it if just getting rid of cards you don't plan on using. So that's pretty cool. That's about it. I haven't played a whole lot. I mean, of course, I played Dokkan, of course. I did pull the Super Vegeta unit that I've been trying to get for the past 2 weeks.
Come on.
So I mean that works, but I mean luckily on JP that the 7th anniversary is, but I'm on global, so we gotta wait till like end of June or July. So for me, it's gonna be slower for the next few months because I'm probably not gonna summon on anything, or at least not much because I want to wait for the anniversary because that's like the best event of the year, and you don't want to get shafted too hard. And what about you, Pants? Anything you've been playing that's been
Ooh,
interesting?
have I been playing games? Yes.
Oh,
I know. I normally, whenever I show up on the podcast, I am like, games. What are they again? I occasionally play the Fortnites, and that's it.
The Fortnites.
I need to play
yeah, the Fortnite.
the Final Fantasy 14 because literally, I haven't played since December because
Yeah.
Ooh.
I came in, I made myself a bunny boy twink. I played a little bit of the story, I left. For the holidays, I came back, forgot about it.
Is your subscription still on?
It is.
You better log on right the fuck now.
This is why I lost my last house. Because, well, listen, okay, let me talk about that. I logged in, I thought I walked into the house. So I was online during the time between when you would lose your house. And I thought I walked into it, and I guess I didn't actually. And that's the only reason I know. So I was actually playing, and then I left. So I would have lost it anyway, though. But I think once I lost it, then I was like, well, there's nothing good for me anymore.
You lost your house and you're like, I'm homeless.
I'm on the box on the side of the street. I'm outside somebody's house, like, please adopt me.
Spare Gil. Spare Gil.
Spare Gil. I know, I don't even go to my guild's house. I just go outside of it. I'm like, please give me a home. But yeah, Final Fantasy, I need to start up. Fortnite's really the only thing, because I need to play it more so I can finally get Spider-Man. Is that still going? I hope so.
It's still going. We have like 2 more months, I think.
Okay, so I'm playing it as soon as I get off. And that's about it. Oh, so where can everybody find y'all? I'm really bad at these segues.
It's okay.
It's been a while since I've been on the podcast.
We're getting through it.
We're getting through it. Where can everybody find you? I will go backwards to Koga.
You can find me on here, Twitch. I keep forgetting that this goes into like multiple places. So if I say here, they might try to be looking for me somewhere where I'm not. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Koga_Jangles. Still not hiatus here on Twitch. Probably at some point I have a few things that I've been thinking about, but I just currently on hiatus currently. Where can we find you, Dex?
You can find me on Twitter at DexIsAMess, and you can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Dextralicious.
And you can find me on everything at Pants Très Bien. I'm also on a Twitch hiatus for a while, and I thought I'd be back by now, and my work hours are very bad lately. So
We're just the hiatus gang. We're
just the
non-streamer streamers.
non-streamer streamers. I might make YouTube content because it's probably a lot easier for me to just be like, let me record this and then put it up instead of me sitting around for an hour to play or more to play something. So you might see that. So same socials, Pants Très Bien on YouTube. and yeah, does anyone want to do the ending? Because I don't.
Do the ending? Usually, the ending is usually thank you all for being here. We hope you enjoyed. Bye.
Bye.